This episode is sponsored by Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet. You know that one friend who always finds the best travel deals, picks the right cards, and somehow ends up in first class for the price of coach? How do they do that? Well, Smart Travel is like that friend, but in podcast form. They cover all things travel finance, like which travel cards earn their keep and which are just heavy, shiny metal, and planning group trips that won't ruin your budget or your friendships. So travel smarter and spend less. That's the key with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts. Armchair Explorer is a part of the Voyescape podcast network. Check out all of their shows from around the world at voyescape.com.
The fire is coming out of the core underneath your feet. And that happened with me when the first time I saw a volcano erupting. It was like a moth to the flame. I could not resist. I had to look at it. I could not take my eyes off it anymore. They are the bringer of life because of the fertile soil, but they are also destructors. There have been many examples in our history where volcanoes have destroyed civilizations or even changed climates, or you name it. It's making you recognize that you are part of something really big. The earth underneath your feet. But at the same time, it makes you feel extremely small.
Hey guys, welcome to Armchair Explorer. My name's Aaron Miller. I'm a travel writer and your host, and today we are going on one heck of an adventure together. It's going to involve all 7 continents, getting lost in a jungle, frozen on a mountain, and a million steps on lava. Are you ready for the Volcanic 7 Summits? Let's go. Ricardo Kaljouw is one of only a handful of people on the planet who have ever completed this epic odyssey. You've probably heard of the 7 Summits Challenge, where you've got to climb the highest mountain on all 7 continents. Well, this is that, except volcanoes, and I kind of don't want to say any more than that. Other than Ricardo is an awesome guy. He's super fun to hang out with, as you're going to see. And although this challenge is complete, he's already out on the next one and constantly going on crazy expeditions all over the world. So if you enjoy this story, give him a follow on social at Volcanic Seven Summits is the handle. And check out his book too. It's called A Million Steps on Lava, Climbing the Highest Volcano on Each Continent. I really enjoyed it, and especially because it starts with Ricardo, just like many of us, dreaming of high peaks, but without any real experience in climbing them. So I found it really inspirational because he started from that place and he ended up in this incredible place, and it makes it seem possible for any of us and all of us to go and seek those peaks, whatever that adventure means to you. I've also got a small favor to ask, guys. If you enjoy this show and want to help keep these stories coming, the best, absolute number one thing you can do for us is to help spread the word. My goal for this series is to get 1,000 new listeners, which would be a really big deal, but I think it's going to be possible. So if you want to help me get there, there's a share button in the show notes. It's a quick one-click thing. You just hit that, goes to your Instagram, wherever, Facebook, Twitter. Yes, I still call it that. And then you can just hit post. It takes 30 seconds. You're done. Or you can even go old school and tell a friend about it in real life. There's nothing wrong with old school. I'm all about that too. Our social media is at Armchair Explorer Podcast. You can drop me a line there too. We're going to be posting some behind the scenes stuff, some Ricardo's photos and videos, some bits of the interview that we didn't include in this, some amazing volcanoes, including one that I went inside. Yes, I'm going to tell that story, and lots more. So I'd love to hang out. But for now, let's begin. And although we will be climbing the highest volcanoes on the planet, Ricardo's story begins at sea.
I'm born and raised under sea level here in this province, Zealand. I always call it the original Zealand, not the new one. I live behind the dunes. The sea is always there as a danger. But I was always wondering, what is beyond there. I wanted to see the world, and one of the best places to do that was to go into the Navy. And that erupted pretty fast into deployments. And in the high days of a lot of piracy near Somalia in 2009, 2010, and 11, I was sent there 3 times. And I had a lot of encounters with pirates, firefights. We even retook a cargo vessel from pirates. I had very, very different experiences from my side than from, let's say, merchant sailors. Because when merchant sailors went in that area, they were terrified to go there. And I absolutely understood, because people were being kidnapped for ransom. But I was there with a frigate who was just armed to the teeth. However, though, I did understand that when I went there, that there are problems in the world that we in the Western world look maybe with a different lens. But when you are there and you fully, truly understand the story, why these people are doing that, I don't have sympathy for it that way, but I do have an understanding why these people were going through that time. And that is when I went into the Navy, it really opened up for me the world. And then I understood, like, there's so much over there and I want to know more. During one of those deployments, I went to Mombasa. I went to Kenya. And that was my first time when I was really in mainland East Africa. And one of the things that I really wanted to do is to go on a safari. And it was amazing to see these animals in their wild habitat. But there was something else looming in the background. And that was way bigger than any animal that is here on this planet. And I got lucky that it just showed a little bit of a glimpse of its greatness. And that greatness is a mountain that everybody knows, and that is Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro rises 19,341 feet from the Tanzanian savannah. It is the tallest mountain in Africa and the highest freestanding mountain in the world, and one of the most beautiful, permanently crowned in snow. And after that first sighting, Ricardo began dreaming of high peaks. For the next 4 years, he climbed whenever he could, ascending modest peaks at first, learning the skills he would need to go higher. But it wasn't long before he began to dream bigger and bigger. He was granted 2 weeks leave from the Navy and immediately returned to where that dream first began. He had one thing in mind: to climb above the clouds and stand on the roof of Africa. On the way up, he would ascend through 5 distinct climatic zones.
That is the uniqueness of this climb, and you are introduced to all these kind of different shapes of the volcano. You are walking into the jungle where monkeys are swinging above you. Literally one day later, you are walking in a more swampy kind of like alien misty world, and then eventually you come towards more higher altitude, and it starts to become more like a moon landscape over there. Nothing grows, just maybe some rodents are sniffing around. And then on top of that, they call it the crown of ice. The glaciers are there, the ice is there, and that makes every day a special day. It gives you new senses, it gives you new challenges also, yes, 100%, but it always keeps you occupied in some way. And that is the beauty of that mountain.
Ricardo is following the Machame route, one of the most popular routes up the mountain, and also one of the most beautiful, renowned for its breathtaking views. Shira Cathedral, a spectacular volcanic ridge cutting across the Shira Plateau, the Lava Tower, a 300-foot monolithic spire of solidified magma, the southern ice fields, the plains and savannah of Tanzania and Kenya. He spent cold nights huddled in his tent and pink mornings hiking above the clouds. But the higher he climbed, the thinner the air became. The wind tore into him, his legs ached. At times, the altitude grounded him to a halt, twisting his stomach in knots and nausea. Step after step, until finally, after nearly a week of climbing, he reached Barafu Camp, 15,330 feet high, the final resting point before the summit.
The first summit night, I didn't really sleep. I thought what I should really expect. Did I train enough? Am I strong enough? You name it. And then when I started, everything went quite pretty smooth for me. Then eventually you come up there and then you relive all the moments that you have been preparing yourself for this moment, you know, mentally, physically, emotionally. And then everything, it just bursts out at that moment itself. And I was there when it was dark at the summit. And normally you get the sunrise in the back of you. When you go up on the last ridge, you get it up in the back. But I was on my way back. So I got it exactly in my face. And I got this beautiful color shift, just incredible. Well, maybe the sun greeted me after that, just like, here I am, you know. And this is your fire. And from that moment onwards, I feel like I have this fire that I have inside of me that I'm carrying, and I take it all around the world, and I don't want to let it go.
As he stood on the summit, he writes, "Chills of joy and fulfillment ran through my body, and I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Standing at the summit, I was overtaken by an indescribable sense of relief and accomplishment. After days of trekking, climbing, and sleepless nights, I had finally achieved my goal." And as he descended with the sunrise, that fire kindling now inside of him, he began to dream again. A year later, he returned to Africa, drawn to the borderlands of Congo, Rwanda, and Uganda, a region renowned for its volcanoes, including one of the most active on Earth, home to the largest lava lake in the world.
So first of all, if you go there, it's a conflict zone. So getting there is already a little bit of difficult, and you have to be having a strong mind and heart to just go through that kind of area where rebels are roaming. But then you go to this volcano and it's marvelous. It's absolutely, I wish one day I could go back to that place. It's not a high volcano, but it has the biggest lava lake in the world. And we come up there just at sunset, and you look at the lava and you're like, yeah, the lava is there. That's quite impressive. And then it's near the equator. So the button goes up, like click, sun is gone. And then it comes alive. It's like this big red pillar just shooting up in the sky. And you look at it and you're like, at what am I looking? You cannot believe your eyes at that moment. And then you realize, I'm gonna spend the night up here. Pretty dangerous. You don't know what is going to happen. It did erupt a couple of years later. So it is a pretty active volcano, and the name is Nyiragongo. But yeah, at that moment I was sold. I was absolutely sold.
He writes, "The earth rumbled beneath my feet, and the deep rhythmic eruptions awakened something primal and ancient inside of me, a force I hadn't known existed. Each eruption reminded me of the relentless pulse of the earth, a cycle of creation and destruction unfolding before me. And that night, I made a silent vow. This wouldn't be the last time I stood at the edge of a crater." And he was right. Soon after, he would stand on the top of Russia's Mount Elbrus, 18,510 feet high, the tallest volcano and mountain in Europe. And it was there that the idea of the 7 volcanic summits started kindling in his mind. He'd already done 2. Why not just do the other 5? And so, with that goal firmly now locked in his mind, he went to Iran in winter to climb Mount Damavand, the highest volcano in Asia.
My impressions of Iran itself is it's a beautiful country, beautiful nature. I think it's mostly pictured like it's just a sandbox. There's not a lot there. But if you go north of Tehran, you have these beautiful mountains. And let's not talk only about the nature, but let's also talk about the people, you know? The people that I met over there, they are wonderful people. They invite you in their houses. They want to know the Western world. They want to know the people who are there. See Iran not in the lens of the government. I see the Iran more in the lens of the people that I met and the wonderful, wonderful nature that is there. I found it a really extraordinary country to go to. If you look up pictures of Damavand in the summer, it's an impressive volcano, but it's quite rocky, you know. It's just walking up. But in winter, it's a different game. In winter, we are talking about it's totally full with snow that eventually accumulates to thick ice and harsh weather. So I thought, let's do this.
Damavand is an active volcano. It hasn't erupted for thousands of years, but thick sulfurous gases seep through vents in the crater, staining the surrounding rocks yellow-green and making it hard to breathe. As Ricardo climbed, the wind raged around them, plummeting the temperatures in the dark of pre-dawn. After an hour, they came to a ridge coated in a thick layer of ice. Without ropes and harnesses, the route they had planned to take was now impassable. Half his group returned immediately, not prepared to take the risk. But undaunted, his guide, Ashkan, headed straight up a snowfield by its side, cutting steps into a 50-degree slope, and Ricardo followed, step after precarious step, until finally the summit appeared. But there was no time to celebrate.
And the weather started to change. And there was this big accumulated cloud just forming around us. And I said to the guy, I said, hey, is this something that we should worry about? And nah, you don't need to worry about this. Nothing's gonna happen. And I saw some flashes a little bit far away, and I saw, you hear the thunder, and it starts to creep up on me, you know, like, I don't feel so secure about this. Asked him again, like, hey, is there something? What is this? No, nothing. And just out of the sudden, just the whole hell broke loose over there. It just, the lightning bolts just came down. And then I understood I was in a very vulnerable position because I was on a steep volcano, no cover, nothing. I had an ice axe, I had it in my hand. I had another pole, I had to stick it out. And directly you think like, yeah, I'm gonna get electrocuted over here, you know, it's gonna be over. So tossed my back down, started running down, and then you just get in this kind of, well, it's not a survival mode, but you get really into this adrenaline shot. You feel your whole body, every breath, every bump of your heart, all your hairs in your body just go up. Everything, all your senses are on. If you think you don't have senses on your body, you have them everywhere. At that moment, you go full Spider-Verse, so everything start to tingle in, and you're like, whoa, what is going on here?
Run, Ricardo, run as fast as you can, Ashkan shouted, and I started sprinting, one foot in front of the other through the deep snow. Suddenly, a lightning strike hit just 200 meters ahead of us, followed by a thunderclap so loud it forced us to lie flat on the freezing ground. My body trembled with fear. Eventually, he heard Ashkan's voice faint beneath the howling wind and thunder, telling him to get up, get out of there. And he obeyed, and somehow, despite the exhaustion and altitude, he managed to sprint and keep running and keep sprinting and keep pushing forward until they made it to the shelter and collapsed inside. But that night, as he lay dozing, he realized something was wrong. Searing pain shot through his eyes like a knife. It was only when he tried to open his eyelids and couldn't that he realized what was wrong. He had become snowblind. He lay there in dark agony for 12 hours, and then, without any other option, still unable to see, trekking pole in front of him like a blind man's stick and Ashkan holding his arm, he descended Damavand with his eyes closed. It would be 30 hours before he was able to open them again. But despite that, the fire inside of him that had ignited on Kilimanjaro and grown on Elbrus now fanned even hotter. 3 volcanoes down, 4 to go. But the next one would be a completely different kind of challenge. He was headed to one of the most remote and rarely visited places on Earth to enter what he described as his tropical nightmare. Quick shout out for our guest today, guys, Ricardo Kaljouw. He is an awesome dude, right? So if you're enjoying his story, follow him on social. The handle is at Volcanic Seven Summits, and please search up that book too. Lots and lots more than we could go into here. It's called A Million Steps on Lava, Climbing the Highest Volcano on Each Continent. And that's social again, at Volcanic Seven Summits. He's on another expedition right now, so go and follow along.
There are people who go to Papua New Guinea, but most of the people, when they go there, they go to New Britain. There's an island group over there. There's a lot of resorts, a lot of culture, perfect weather. It's nice. But that's not where the volcano Kilauea is situated. Kilauea is situated in the highlands, in the middle of Papua New Guinea itself. And people over there live total different lives. It's dangerous. You have a city called Mount Hagen. It's extremely dangerous. Unfortunately, a lot of poverty. You cannot wander around outside in the night. It's impossible. And then you have the people itself there, even local tribes who are still over there. And it's totally the opposite of all the snowy mountains you have over there. This was my first time really climbing in a thick jungle. And that jungle over there is just relentless. That jungle doesn't want you there. We as humans, we are not built for that kind of humidity and jungle. It's mosquitoes bite you, insects want to drink your sweat, the ground is muddy, every tree has spikes, the leaves that you touch, they leave a rash on your body. You have the sun who is just burning in your neck all the time. It's just really hard to get through.
Papua New Guinea is home to the third largest rainforest in the world, covering more than 70% of the country. And large parts of that remain unexplored. The terrain is simply too steep and dense to penetrate. It is thought that within the depths of those forests, there are people who have remained to this day completely uncontacted by the outside world. And whispers, too, of cannibalism, a practice that was once common among certain tribes here. Because of the difficulty in access, Ricardo contacted a local travel agent before he arrived to help arrange the expedition. But it wasn't exactly an easy or organized practice. Not many people come to the southern highlands to climb volcanoes here. But it worked, and when he arrived, two locals, Luke and James, were waiting to guide him to Mount Kilauea's summit. The three of them caught a lift to the edge of the rainforest at the very start of their 4-day trek. But there were no paths. He describes it as a green wall. James drew his machete and began hacking at the vegetation, pushing slowly, inch by inch, into an impenetrable jungle that didn't want them there. It wasn't until the second night that he realized he'd made a big mistake.
Maybe the thin line in my expedition is that I make mistakes. I'm human. Yes, I learn from my mistakes also. But I understood that the company with my porters and my guides who could barely speak English, they would take food for me. And they understood that I will bring my own food. And we found out after 1.5 days, we found out that, we had not enough food for all three of us, which later accumulated into way more problems that I could ever foresee. In my book, I call it Tropical Nightmare. I call it. I explained towards the guide that, I've come from a very long way. I think I'm really tough. I can do this. And we have enough food for the three of us to go there and continue. Unfortunately, after we came back from the summit, when the porter who was supposed to make a little bit of food of us was gone. And we thought he went to the river, get some water for the rice to get it done. But we could not find anything, no jacket, no axe, no pot, no nothing. And first we were really worried, of course, like, where is this guy? And we started searching for him for a pretty long time. But fortunately, tropical rainstorms, they started to get in also with lightning bolts, and we had to retreat ourselves towards the jungle. And then we thought he went to the camp. We checked the camp because we made an improvised camp somewhere in the jungle. We waited even another day, but nobody showed up. And eventually I have to start to get food somewhere, and we had to start to make our way back. That was always our intention, that we will go back, we will search for help, or we will find him and we will reconnect, And then we went down on no food. We drink out of rivers, we had water, yes. And then when I thought it could not get worse, I had an encounter with the locals.
After 2 hours, we caught sight of the first small wooden village where people had gathered around fires, he writes. As our light approached, they reacted quickly, armed with machetes, curious about the unusual presence of travelers at such a late hour. And as they came closer, the group continued to grow, and the mood shifted. Luke, his guide, was talking avidly, trying to keep them at bay. The memory of the infamous story of Michael Rockefeller, he writes, who vanished in 1961 after encountering headhunters, haunted me. The horrific account of his final moments, speared in the ribs while desperately swimming for his life, followed by beheading, scalping, mutilation, and unspeakable rituals, played vividly in my mind. The people around us began to sing. Their voices formed an eerie melody that sent shivers down my spine. I felt deeply uneasy, as though I were stepping alone into the darkness.
I know people who went there even after me, and people have been kidnapped, people have their passport stolen, people have been, trying to be killed. It's just like, there are no rules, It's something, it feels like that thick in the jungle. And now people started to shove me, people started to wonder who I was. It was pretty terrifying because you cannot communicate to these people, You don't understand them, they don't understand you. And luckily I had, the guide was there who could speak the local tongue and try to ease down things itself. Because, later I found out that, in some indirect way, they were hunting me.
That night, after they had finally made it back to the guest house where he was staying, Ricardo noticed a building glowing with lights nearby. "What's that building?" he asked the owner. "That's the church," she replied. "There's a service tonight." Curious, I asked why there was a service on a Friday. "Last night someone saw an angry witch in the jungle," she said. "It's considered a very bad omen." And during the service, the priest reportedly urged the villagers to track down, capture, or if necessary, kill any witch they encountered. There are tribes in Papua New Guinea who to this day believe that outsiders carry demons and evil spirits. And though he can't know for sure, and thankfully escaped before he could find out, that strange white man coming down from the jungle in the middle of the night was that witch. After Gilaway, he traveled to Mexico to climb Pico de Orizaba, the highest volcano in North America, recording a proposal video on the summit, which was accepted by the time he got down. And then further south after that to the Atacama Desert of Chile and the tallest volcano on Earth, Ojos del Salado, 22,615 feet high.
When I went there, it was really bad weather, horrendous weather in the season, and we had to climb this one in very snowy and difficult conditions. And if you go almost towards 7,000 meters, is an absolutely different world. It's, if you compare the 7 out of all of them, this one is 1,000 meters higher than all the other candidates. And in mountaineering, that is a very big distance, because especially if you go way higher, everything is just exponential. So your body is fighting at the moment over there. So it was really tough for altitude. The conditions in combination of that was really harsh. And the emotional factor that happened on that climb itself. And that all combined in one cocktail, was for me, of these 7, was the hardest one.
He was there in the Altiplano winter, a rare weather phenomenon when moist air from the rainforest rises to the Altiplano carried by easterly winds and eventually falls as snow on the highest mountains. Normally, only a handful of days per season are conducive to such snowfall, but this year, they had seen near continuous snow. Ojos del Salado is a tough climb in perfect weather. In the Altiplano winter, it is brutal. He left camp in the salt plains of the Atacama at 2 a.m. Countless tiny diamonds adorned the heavens, he writes, illuminating the black canvas with a brilliance that surpassed anything I had ever seen. But by the time they had driven to the base of the mountain and begun their climb, it was 6:30 a.m. It took them 4.5 hours to get there, much later than they had planned. As he climbed higher, past 19,000 feet, 20,000 feet, now the highest he'd ever been, the snow deepened, meaning their crampons couldn't break through to grip the ice anymore. They were unroped. Each step was like walking at the edge of an abyss. Nothing and no one could help him if he slipped. By the time they reached 22,000 feet, they had only a few hours of daylight left. The summit was less than 500 feet higher up. It would be the longest 500 feet he'd ever attempted, pushing both his body and mind to the limit. Every step felt like running a marathon, he says, while gasping for air through a narrow straw. There were moments he thought it was all over, moments that threatened to rob him of consciousness and collapse to the ground. But the pain, he says, was insignificant compared to my determination to reach the summit. And when he did, he dropped to his knees and burst into tears. The journey had taken everything from him, and in that moment, all of that emotion came pouring out. But he didn't have long to enjoy it. When he looked to the horizon, night was already falling, a storm was brewing, and time was running out.
I think personally that the team started too late. I think we were too confident that we could do this in a very short period. Eventually we came to the summit. I stood around 30 seconds of my life. I stood on the summit of the highest volcano. And when I was there, I directly had to turn around. I had to go back. And there were multiple reasons. The time was not upon us. It started to go, the sunset, it started to get colder. The weather was even deteriorating at the moment. And yeah, that was really hard time to go down. I injured my knee on the way up. Maybe at that time I should have stopped. But that decision later, bit me back. Because on the way down, when you really start to use your knees on the way down, my injury in my knee became, more presentable, and it slowed me down. And that led eventually, after a lot of things that happened on the mountain, that I got between two groups and was lost. Being lost in the mountain in minus 28 on 6,600 meters, that's no fun. It's a realization that you feel super alone, very small, very vulnerable. And you start to question yourself, like, what do I need to do? You question that yourself sometimes in mountaineering, I think, everybody, like, what would I do when I'm in a situation like this? But when you are really in a situation like that, everything changes totally. First of all, I scanned, where am I? Can I see somebody? Should I continue? Should I follow the footprints that are still in front of me? But the hard wind was dusting them away in front of me. Or should I stay? Should I wait? And I did the last thing. I waited it out. I buried myself as a cocoon and waited until, or it's gonna be sunrise so I can see where I have to go, or somebody's gonna come back for me or find me. But it's a terrifying thing that you are on this mountain, super cold, alone, not knowing exactly what to do. Eventually I was found, and when I came back I was really happy. I made it. I summited 6 out of 7 volcanoes of it. But when I really came back in the Netherlands, I remember one night I woke up and it's not panic, but it's mostly, where am I? I need to get out of here. It's like if my body was just in a cocoon of fear at the moment. And I think it stems from that time when I was also there as a cocoon, just sitting there, not knowing what to do, fearing I will lose some of my fingers or my nose in this kind of cold. But I think I carried that with me at that time and even took it home.
It was a moment that he never forgot, and he carried it home with him. But a few months later, as he stood by his collection of volcanic trophies, now twice the size it had been months earlier, he realized that there was one final trophy missing. One last summit, one final goal that he had to reach before he could finally close this chapter. But to achieve that last summit, he would have to travel to the far southern reaches of the Earth.
Antarctica has a lot of mystery. It is the melting pot of conspiracies, just you name it. Of course, a lot of people, they love to go there, and I absolutely do understand that. But most of the people, when they set their foot on Antarctica, they do it on an island and they say, I've been to Antarctica. But where I had to go is not there. It is going very far deep in the interior, and over there is a world. It is absolutely insane. I remember when I went there, I was so excited the first day when I went on that plane. You fly over there and you put your first eyesight on that continent, and you see how vast, how remote, how wild this place is. And understanding that if you don't have the logistical chain, you don't have your equipment, there is very, very, very small chance you will ever survive it. During my expedition, so where I went, the name is called Mount Sidley, and it's situated in West Antarctica, which is the biggest unclaimed part of land on our planet. Not many people roam over there. When I came from the big camp, I still had to fly around 3.5 hours into the interior, around 1,000 kilometers away from any form of life and any form of help. And my expedition went pretty well in the beginning, but eventually my guide got sick. And I was terrified that it would mean that we had to turn around, that I could not even make an attempt to do this. And I even had at some point so much doubt that I started to question, how am I ever going to recover from this financially if I have to do this one more time?
The first camp Ricardo got dropped off at was called Union Glacier Camp, 500 miles inland from the coast, and the jumping off point for various extreme expeditions. But Union Glacier was only a pit stop on Ricardo's journey. He was headed another 600 miles deeper into the interior, and for the next 6 days, he would be camping in a vast, isolated region called Mary Birdland, home to 18 major volcanoes. As he touched the ground, a wave of awe washed over him. I was placing one of the first footprints on the land that stretched for thousands of kilometers, he writes, a place where few had ever walked. I was overwhelmed by the remoteness, the raw nature, and the realization that we were completely on our own. No help would come. No one would find us if something went wrong. The expedition had truly begun. Except it hadn't. By the time a replacement guide had arrived, the weather had turned. As they waited out the storm, wondering when they should go, if they should risk it, a Polish team returned to camp riddled with frostbite. They had tried to reach the summit, and it ended up being a 31-hour attempt in minus 49 degrees Fahrenheit. One guy had to have his nose amputated. Day after day, the storm blew, and he lay huddled in his tent. The flight out could not be delayed. The clock was ticking. Soon, they had 1 day left before he had to leave, and if the weather didn't clear, he would be going home empty-handed.
In high camp, there was one moment, it was almost like a tradition what we had, is that if you wake up, you go check your tent, you zip open the back of your tent, and you're going to check how is the weather. And sometimes it was good, sometimes it was not so good. And this time, I remember I opened it and I looked, and it was just crispy. The power of the sun was good. It didn't really feel super cold. It's still cold over there, don't get me wrong. But the air was clear, and I could have just go back into my sleeping bag, sleep, waited until the time that we said, let's go. But I was bold. I walked up to the tent of the guide. I said, hey, you have to take a look at this. And same thing, what I thought is that he saw the sky, he saw it, and he said, it's time to go, boys. We're going. And at that moment, I had that feeling. I knew for me, this one, we're going full force for it. We're gonna go. Put on the pack, put on the rope, and we started to go. There is no route over there. We went in the shortest time that we could, one straight line up to the crater rim and finding the spot where the summit is. And going there, being there at that moment is still until today one of my most happiest moments I ever had. To have the chance to really go up there and to place my feet on the highest volcanic piece of rock in Antarctica.
This was a piece of rock, he writes, 17,000 kilometers from my homeland. It had taken me 3 weeks to get here, 6 years of dreaming and striving to reach this moment. My crampons dug deep into the ice. I looked straight up at the sun and took a deep breath. Around me stretched an endless sea of ice, making me feel like I was standing in the most unique place on Earth. And in that moment, a wave of emotion washed over me. Everything that he had done up to that moment culminated. All that striving, all that hardship, all that climbing and pushing and cold and danger, all of it had been worth it. But not just for the achievement or the adventure, or even the pure joy of exploring some of the wildest places on Earth, but because he had kept that fire burning. From the plains of Kilimanjaro to the icy reaches of Antarctica, through jungles and witches, lost on a frozen mountain, running from lightning, watching the bubbling cauldron of the largest lava lake in the world. It had been worth it, not just for him, but for the volcanoes themselves.
I think they all are our teachers in some way. And that is the beauty of mountaineering, is that this mountain for me teach me this. But that doesn't mean that that same mountain will teach you the same. What volcanoes teach me in totally is that I am just a very small part of this universe. My time over here is limited, especially when you look at volcanoes when they erupt. They are the mechanisms of our Earth. They have been existing for millions of years. You are only there a visitor for a very small time in this period. It has brought me more lessons than I ever thought regarding resilience. I learned more in my mountaineering career than I ever learned more about resilience in my time in the armed forces. I learned to be patient. I learned to be accepting that I'm vulnerable. You don't always have to be the tough guy all the time, you know. A mountain, when you climb a mountain, it's gonna pinch right through it. Doesn't matter how tough you are, it's gonna swing something at you and it's gonna hit you. I learned what kind of beauty our world has. Absolutely beauty it has. It learned me what kind of dangers are there in the world. And I also learned that I have to, even though I love to be in the mountains, I wish I could live in the mountains. I wish I could. It becomes my job to do these kind of things in the mountains. I also learned that, please, when you have time, spend your time with loved ones. Be there for them and share stories, laugh, and get ready for the next mountain sometimes.
He starts the last chapter of his book with a quote from historian Sarah Lewis. "Completion is a goal, but we hope it's never the end." And that is the case with Ricardo. He's still climbing, chasing new records, standing on new summits. It's astonishing how mountains become a part of us, he says, how they take up space in our hearts and memories. And perhaps that's even more so with volcanoes. They are world builders and destroyers. Their power is unfathomable and far greater than we could ever be. Yet, like watching stars, they remind us that though we are small, we are also part of something incomprehensibly vast. And to stand on top of them is to reach closer, perhaps, to the fire that burns inside them, and the fire that burns inside us too. Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you, you guys too. Thank you so much for listening. I love sharing these stories with you, but I don't often get to know what you think. So please drop me a line at armchair-explorer podcast on Instagram. I'm always happy to answer any travel and adventure questions that I can. We have a huge library of content now. So pretty much whatever the next trip you're dreaming about, I can probably direct you to an episode or guest who's going to know a thing or two about that. And if you enjoyed this episode, the best thing that you could do is tell a friend, leave a review, follow the show. I'm really trying to grow the audience this year. I'm really trying to get 1,000 extra followers. And for everyone that's helped so far this series, thank you. It has really helped. But we've got a few more to go to get to that 1,000 mark. So if you did enjoy this episode or you're enjoying this show and you know someone who might need a little escape or might enjoy it too, please do let them know, pass it on, share a post, leave a review. It's honestly the best thing you can do. So thank you so much for whatever you can do. And remember, keep your fire burning, hold on to that, nurture it, and seek out adventures near and far. Because the more we look for wonder in the world, the more the wonder of the world becomes a part of who we are. Dare to be truly alive. Today's guest is Ricardo Kaljouw. You can connect with him on social at Volcanic Seven Summits, and the book of this story is called A Million Steps on Lava. Go and hang out with him. Go and check out that book. You won't be disappointed. Armchair Explorer is written and presented by me, Aaron Miller, and produced by Charles Tyree. You can check out our other shows at armchair-productions.com. And remember, you can go to voyescape.com as well. We're part of that network now, which is really cool. Some other really great travel shows there. So if you like this one, I think you'll like a few there too. So thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time.
Quick question. Do you want travel tips from people who have actually been there?
Our show is co-hosted by Tim Johnson, an award-winning travel journalist who's been to more than 145 countries around the world. And I'm David Brody, the other co-host who's been travel podcasting for 20 years while traveling to 50-plus countries around the world.
In about 10 or 20 minutes per show, we break down a destination with the kind of insight you usually only get from long guidebooks or hours of research.
So if you want expert advice, zero fluff, and travel inspiration that you can actually use, search for Travel in 10 wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can also find us at voyescape.com.
Hi, I'm Pauline Fromer, host of the Fromer's Travel Podcast. We post new episodes weekly, detailing the kinds of money-saving tips and cultural insights that will make your trips richer without making you significantly poorer. We do so by interviewing real travel experts like TV host Samantha Brown, Fromer's authors from around the globe, and such public figures as Free Solo's Alex Honnold. It's a fun travel party. I hope you can join us.